Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel for a little card tutorial today. And these cards can be seen all over YouTube. They're quite popular at the moment, but I've thought I'd give it my own little twist. This is the one I did with Farmer's Market by Nitwit Collections. And what it's called is a split lattice card. And I've made it to look like the picket fence. So mine is slightly different to ones I've seen online, and I've figured out a much easier method to make it. So the measurements for mine, really easy. There's no fiddly taper things temporarily. So yeah, as long as you've got a scoreboard, you'll find this nice and easy to make. And you'll see how it works on the back. So you've got all these see-through elements, and then the paper you choose in the background can be seen through. My version fits into a 5x7 envelope as well, and slightly different. Most of them start at the base. Mine doesn't. Mine starts like a picket fence, up a little bit. So there is a slight difference there as well. So I really liked how this one turned out, but I thought I'd try something different. So this time we're going to go for the Poppies collection by Nitwit Collections as well. But this will work for any of your paper kits, any of your flowers. I suppose it needs to go with the gardening or flowery theme because of the fence. So for mine, I'm going to start off with some white cardstock. So I've got my trimmer, and I've got some 220 GSM cardstock, and it's a 5x7 card. So I'm going to first of all trim this at 5 inches. Oh, come out to the channel. There we go. So I've got this nice long piece, and I'm going to cut it now at 8 3/4. Go. And with this little piece, I'm going to be cutting 1 inch pieces. So 1, 2, and that bit isn't enough for a piece. Now, my picket fences here were 6 inches tall, but this time I think I'm going to go up a little bit higher. So I'm going to go 6 1/4. So you can go higher, just don't go lower than 6. And then the rest of it I'm going to cut at 5 inches again, because I do need a couple more inch strips. So these are 5 by 1 inch. So you can see it's all coming from one piece of cardstock so far. Well, not so far, it will. And these ones, also 1 inch. I told you my measurements were going to be nice and easy. So I got 1, 2, and 3. So all in all, we have our 5 by 8 3/4 card base, 3 pieces for our picket fence, which measure 1 inch by 6 or 6 1/4, 6 1/2. And then our horizontal ones are 5 inches, so same as our card, by 1 inch. And I've got 4 of those. So let's put these aside and bring our scoreboard in. So my first piece is my card base. So I'm going to pop that in to my scoreboard, and I'm score at 7 inches. So that gives us our 5x7 card base. And we need to burnish this well. There we go. And whilst I have my scoreboard, I'm going to mark my picket fence piece. So it's 1 inch. So I'm going to just do a little notch at 1 inch. So I'm just placing that there just to give a little mark there. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to mark at 3 1/4 and flip it over and mark at 3/4. You could just use a pencil for this. And I thought I'll just cut them all at the same time. So what I'm going to do now, and just by hand, so you could draw pencil lines, but a picket fence isn't perfect wood anyway. We're just going to cut from those side corners to that score line, and the same here. Now mine have moved slightly. I'm not worried about that. Each one is slightly different. That's fine. It's a picket fence. So let's just move them out the way. And if we look at my original, if I put it, here we go. You can see I've edged them in frayed burlap just to give it a bit of definition. Usually I say the inking is an optional, but I think here it really is necessity, because otherwise it's just plain white and you don't get the feel of the fence. Because I did do one without the inking as my prototype to see if my measurements things worked, and it was all white, just thin paper at the time, and it looked a bit well, not boring, but there just wasn't any shape to it. So there's 2. So I think the other one I did have was pumice stone. That could have worked as well. You just want something light, but something that just highlights the edges. So I've done my 3 vertical. Now I'm just going to do my horizontal struts. There's 1. This wasn't something I could prep before because you've got to cut the pieces. I wanted to show you how it all came from one piece of cardstock. So whilst I'm doing this, are you having a think maybe about what papers you could use or what kits? You could make up your own flowers, have a 3D one if you're ready to make a box for it. But so all I'm going to show you really is the base. The decorating is up to you. And even with the base, the way I'm decorating it this time is different to my first one. I mean, I loved my first one, but there was just a couple of things I'm going to change in this one. And the last piece. There we go. And on the original one, I did ink the edge, just going around the card, but I didn't really need to do it this time, and I'll show you why when I come for the decorating. Okay. So up until now, you've just been prepping your white card. But before you carry on, you will need to now pick what papers you're going to use, because you need to do that before you start assembling. I don't want to do this because it's going to be different this time. But I want to do this, so I'll explain why I did this on the first one. Right. There's the frayed burlap done with. And I'm going to score this again. Yeah, so there's no acetate or anything with this. It's literally just this mechanism will hold it up. Okay, on my original one, I would needed to cover this flap and the back. And I cut it 1/4 inch shorter. So it's 4 3/4 by, what was this? This is 1/3, so 1.5 originally. But this time, I'm actually going to cut my paper to fit exactly over. And you need to glue this on before you do your fence piece. So it's going to be 1 3/4 by 5. And I'm using, as I said earlier, the Poppies collection this time. And this is one of the little bits. So it just fitted perfectly with some of the backing paper. But, you know, any piece of backing paper or patterned paper will work here. And as I said, you can do it for any size. You can cover it exactly or with a border. So that's why I inked the edges, because I inked the edge of the paper and the cardstock. Here, I've just inked the edge of the paper. So I did that before I stuck it down. So that I did prep that before. And then for the inside, you want a 5 by 7 piece. Unless you wanted to go a bit shorter and have that white border like I had on the original. So which way around? Is it that way? And we're going to place that inside here. And have a think about what you're going to put inside. Now I've gone for nice dark contrast colours because it really does show up then in the gaps in your picket fence. So you can see the green comes through there. So this time now, we're going to see that dark oranges and reds coming through. Okay, you can see I haven't covered that. Up to you if you wanted to. So with mine, I think I'll just write on the back my sentiment. The other option is you could just cover it up to there and leave the top white and people could write their sentiment there. But I think having that bold bit is quite nice. Right, let's bring back our scoreboard. Now I said that I've got an easy method. So the measurements are easy. And this next piece is going to be just as easy. Because I'm going to use my scoreboard so I don't have to do any measurements with a ruler. No marking with a pencil or anything. I'm just going to use my scoreboard. So I've placed my card in upside down into my scoreboard. And I've got the 1/4 inch mark here. So what I'm going to do is line this corner up with a 1/4 inch. That bit will line up with the 1 1/4 to make sure I'm nice and straight. And then we're just going to glue it down here. So let me turn it over. So this is the back now. And I'm going to put some, actually I'm going to put a bit of tape just in that corner, because that will hold it for now in place until the glue dries. Right, so I know now my glue can come all the way down to that line. So I'm going to stop just before I get to the edge. And I'm going to glue that triangle. Flip it over. And line, I said that between 1 1/4 and 1 1/4. Make it nice and flat. And that tape will hold it, and then the glue will eventually keep it in place. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So a little piece of tape in that triangle. and glue that triangle piece. So this time now, I've put it 1/4 inch in, so 4 3/4 and 3 3/4. Now, because these are 1 inch wide, it's actually making my measurements really easy. And then the last one is going to go in the middle. Now, the middle is 2 1/2. So I'm going to place this between the 2 and the 3. And again, you can do exactly the same. Piece of tape just at the tip of that triangle. Put some glue. Come down a bit further. And then just line up the 2 bottom pieces between 2 and 3 inches. And if they're slightly off, it doesn't matter. It's a picket fence, some of them do go. So this one is a little bit off with me. It really doesn't bother me because it adds to that picket fence feel. So you can see how now we've got our vertical struts. So now we're going to go for our horizontal ones. Now the ones I've seen all start on the bottom, but to me that doesn't look like a picket fence. So this time we're going to place it horizontal, and that 1/4 inch I'm going to line up there. So the bottom of my first piece is at 1/4 and the top is at 1 1/4. So I'm going to flip it over. I can put just a little bit on the 2 outer ones. That's just to keep it in place. Do you know what? I didn't do that in the original, but because I'm on camera, I'm going to do it just so it stays in place. And I'm placing my glue inside that square. So I'm not going in line with these ones. I'm staying within. So a nice square of glue and a nice square of glue. So when I turn it over now, I'm going to line it up between the 1/4 and 1 1/4. And I can see this side, the second one across is my 1/4. So I'm just going to line it up with that. So you can see now how the bottom of our fence has been stuck down. And that's all I'm going to do now is leave 1/4 inch. So now I'm going to 1 1/2 and 2 1/2. And I'm going to do exactly the same. So let's put some tape there and there. So if I bring a pencil in, I'll show you a bit better what I mean with my glue. So that's where that vertical strut is. So I'm not going up to those pencil marks. I'm staying down a little bit and up a little bit. So I'm just doing a square within. There we go. And we're going to flip it over. And because it's 1 inch, it's 1 1/2 and 2 1/2. And there we go. Let's have a look. Let's bring it back to line up. There we go. So I'm just working out a 1/4 inch there. And third one. Let's bring the 4th one in as well. Once I've got my tape, let's speed it up a little bit. Okay. So again, I'm just going to leave 1/4 inch. So I finished at 2 1/2. So now I'm going to go to 2 3/4 and 3 3/4, which is there. So 1 2 There we go. And the last one. Between 4 and 5. So there we go, all done there. Now this one, I've just realised I've done the opposite to what we did on this one, and I've glued them on top. I think with this one, what I did was, I did them that way, didn't I? And then I did exactly the same as what I've just done, but on the back. So a big difference there. That was totally accidental, but still the same sort of effect. So yeah. Let's just go with this one now then. Here, I've just made my 3D flower. And we're going to put it there. So how are we going to do this? I'm going to line up the flower where I want to put it and flip it over. I'm going to mark where I'd have some exposed pieces, because I don't want to put glue or anything there. And it's up to you now. You could put foam pads, which I think I will. We've got some dogs outside, I think, having some fun. But what you want to make sure is that you don't put anything in that piece. Otherwise, you're going to glue your card shut. And so yeah. So on the original, I glued the first layer flat and then just did some decoupage on top. With this one now, we're going to decoupage it all. So we're going to get a bit of extra lift. And you'll see I've already 3D foamed some more of this. But you could make your own flowers. And oh yeah, there we go. And there you have your split lattice card. Made with us a big difference there, but I think I've shown you the main process, and just remember, stick them on the back, not on the front. Okay, so what you would do is stick your horizontal one, mark your pencil there, or just put your glue there, but actually tuck it behind. So thank you for watching. Sorry for the big mistake, but I think I'm going to leave it as it. I think you can see the two different versions, and who knows, maybe you prefer this version. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you have, please give this video a thumbs up and give me a nice comment below. And if you do make your own version, please share in my Facebook group, Paper Crafting with Paul. If you just type Paper Crafting Paul in Facebook, it should come up. If not, I'll add a link as well, a direct one, in the description below. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.